covers Trent's head.
Yeah. Oh, and it does.
I told you, man.
It's incredible.
Face made for radio. Keep that
Yeah,
logo like that, I
let me just fix
guess.
that. Holy smokes. There we go. How's that? Does that work?
Yeah, man. Of course.
Awesome. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Canadian Bro Show, the second iteration of the Canadian Bro Show. My name is Paul Bale. I'm the founder and host of the Canadian Bro Show, and this second iteration is all basketball from the Hoopjunkies Pauly and Rowley. And I will introduce my co-host with the most very shortly. But in the meantime, thanks for joining us. This is episode number 4 of All Basketball from Hoop Junkies, Pauly and Rowley. Hoops for the soul, players for life.
Viewers are so
Um,
cheap.
the the second iteration was evolved from our first iteration, which is the Canadian Bro Show, the original one, All Things Canadian with Pauly and Johnny, which we've just recently completed our 18th episode. So if you'd like to go to All Things Canadian with Pauly and Johnny on the Canadian Show, you'll see it's the same logo as ours, but ours is a basketball logo, of course, orange. And the All Things Canadian is a turquoise, like the backdrop on our show. And a friendly reminder to help out our new podcast grow. Please subscribe, like, share, comment, and ring that notification bell for all future episodes. It's very straightforward. It's very easy, and we certainly appreciate it. It really helps the algorithms of YouTube. The subscribe button is actually located at the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. All you do is simply scroll over and hit that subscribe button and like, and we really thank you kindly for your time. And now the most important part of the show is the illustrious introduction of the legend himself,
Yeah,
smooth as velvet butter, larger than life itself, known as the Barry White of St. Paul, Alberta, for that incredibly deep and Motown soulful voice.
that's right.
Live from his own sports bar, man cave in the basement of his house, strategically located on the 16th hole of St. Paul's golf course. Welcome, Mr. Trent Rowley.
Hello. How's it going?
Better now.
Yeah,
Always better when I see you, my friend.
of course.
Yeah. What's shaking? What's going on?
I've just been waiting to. Usually we do this yesterday, and we both were kind of busy, and so now
Yeah.
we're trying to get this done today, and always look
Yeah.
forward to it. It's a week, something during the week that look forward to doing. So
Yeah, absolutely,
we
and
got lots to talk
it actually we do have a lot to talk about, and it worked out for us because it gave us the extra games last night. Because this
about.
week was a little bit wonky in week 4. There was like not very. There was a decent Monday night. Tuesday there was one game, or actually no games, and then
Yeah,
Thursday I think no Tuesday was 4 games and Thursday was one game.
yeah.
And last night, of course, was multiple games. So we definitely would like to start off with a little bit about, yesterday, last night, and some of the games that the NBA is now 4 weeks now, going into its fifth. It's the very start of a long season. And already we're talking about the one thing that we really don't like talking about, but we just keep on bringing it up because the injuries are piling up at an accelerated level unseen in recent years. Um, and did you want to just mention a little bit about? Did you have an opportunity to watch any games last night? Or
Sacramento, Minnesota.
oh,
Uh, Darian Fox, man, it's dropping 60. Lost in overtime. I think Keegan Murray had like 35 as well. I mean, they were balling, but again,
yeah,
Minnesota. When you look at the standings, like we talk about later, it's some of these teams seem to be. I don't know. It's again consistency, right? And like you said, injuries. It's like guys missing 2 games here, 3 games. A game here. You look at those. As we're going to get into start with the fantasy, basketball stuff. It's
yeah,
trying to juggle your lineup because you look at your lineup and you see GTD, game time decision. Okay, well,
yeah.
am I going to remember at 10 to 5,
No,
Mountain Time, that I got to make sure I look at my lineup to see if that guy's playing? And it's
yeah,
just
yeah.
so maddening. It's just
It really is, and there doesn't seem to be any consistency with the teams. I think the protocol of the NBA should be everybody should communicate clearly, concisely, and right away.
Right.
And don't, because fantasy basketball is massive. It's a global phenomenon.
Betting is more
And
important than fantasy, though. Let's be honest. The gambling is more important than the fantasy. I mean, fantasy
absolutely, but they're
players
all
don't
the same. They all come in because if you're a gambler and you're on, FanDuel and all of these sites and 360 Bet and MGM and all that,
yeah,
you need to know about those injuries
yeah,
because
agreed.
there's players that are going to replace those 25 to 35 minutes, and it's extremely important. And unfortunately, the level of communication, as an example, the Memphis Grizzlies, forget about them communicating anything about injuries, and the same with the Charlotte, the Hornets. They just they won't say anything. And like Bain was out for 10
Oh, for
games with an
sure.
oblique injury, and he
Yeah.
played last night, and they didn't even tell anyone.
Yeah.
I mean, I
Yeah.
knew he was going to play because I
Yeah,
read
you're
between
all
the lines.
for sure.
And I have players just in case he doesn't play, and but when he plays, Salty Aldama is going to hit the bench again, and he's not going to be playing 35 minutes a game. And as it turns out, he had a pretty good game. But some of the important things that happened, I just want to bring up. A lot of people don't realize, you talk about the tallest player in the NBA right now is Wemby at 7'5". I don't believe there's anybody taller.
No.
And when he stands with his hands up, I believe his wingspan is 7'10",
Yeah,
seven
it's
eleven. It's just freakish. It's
it's
unreal,
crazy.
man.
Yeah.
I mean, his hands, they look like they're alien hands. It's just remarkable. And Wemby had 8 threes the other night
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
8 made. So he
Yep.
was 8 for, I think he was 8 for 14. And if you look at his hands, it's like he's holding a grapefruit. So,
Yep.
people don't understand, for the hands that large, and we both have large hands, is really difficult to shoot a grapefruit with that type of prolific.
Yeah.
But at the same time, he also had multiple rebounds. He had 4 blocks. He's leading the NBA in blocks right now.
Yep.
And the other guy I got to bring up that nobody's talking about, and I picked him up on 4 of my teams, and I'm so glad I did. I had no idea who he was. I really didn't know anything about him. Dyson Daniels.
I brought him up last week to you about how well he
What?
was doing.
You brought it up to me because I wasn't aware of it. I mean, I had
Yeah.
no idea this kid was a thief.
Steals like every like 4 or 5
Holy
steals, it
crap.
seems like
No, more
every
than that. He had 7 steals,
I
6
know, it's
steals, 6
crazy.
steals, 5, 4, and 6 in a
Yeah.
period of 7 games. And
Yeah.
he's leading the NBA right now with like 4 steals. And then he's
Crazy.
also hitting threes because Trey was injured, and the kid he came out and he had 28. He had like 6 dimes, 7 rebounds, 7 steals, 2 blocks. I mean, it's like in the NBA we call them stocks. They're actually you really need those for the fantasy.
He's averaging 3.8 steals a game. That is crazy. Like, to be close to 4 steals a game, like, if he could keep that
Yeah,
up, for the season,
yeah.
that's incredible.
I
I mean,
I think he
usually you're
can.
around that 2.5, 2.6 number when you're having a good season, but almost
Yeah,
4
I think
is
he's
outrageous.
basically taken
Pretty impressive.
over, and people, he's 6'6", Trent.
Yeah.
He can play
Yep,
the
and
2.
he's long. Yep, yep.
And he can, and he's a combo like Trey, so they can play off each other because Trey can jack it, but he's also leading the NBA in assists right now. So it's interesting. Wemby and Dyson Daniels, you get these freak players that just specialize in certain things but contribute in so many other ways. Those are absolute hits for the fantasy
Well,
situation. What about let's talk about
so
the Cavs.
just
14
for
and 0.
real quick though,
Yeah,
Jokic
sure.
Jokic is still leading in assists, 11.7 to Trae Young's 11.3 average
Yeah,
last
that's
night.
going back and forth quite
So,
closely.
yeah.
And I'll bring up
Meanwhile, Jokic
the
is almost average leading the league in rebounds at almost 14 a game too.
yeah.
Like,
It's I mean he's
nobody's ever in the history of the NBA, no one has ever led the league in rebounding and assists
yeah.
in the same
Well,
year, which is
well, that's
kind of
that's not true actually. One
well,
person.
before they kept stats. Sorry,
Well, no,
Wilt.
no. Wilt Chamberlain actually. The year he averaged 50 points a game, everybody criticized him,
And
and because no one talked about he was averaging 26 rebounds a game, 10 blocks, 8 dimes. So he got pretty pissed off, and the next season led the NBA in assists at 11 and a half a game,
right.
and he was averaging 35 points, almost 30 rebounds, 10 blocks. People don't realize that this
Some of
guy
those
was
stats weren't being tracked, right? So,
freak of nature. Well, blocks wasn't tracked up
yeah.
until, in what, the 70s, early
Yeah, it was
70s, I think they.
mid-70s, something like that, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and Wilt, I mean, that's he got robbed on
Yep.
thousands of blocks,
Well, him and
and
Bill Russell. I mean,
yeah, and well, Russell was legitimate blocks. Well, Wilt had such incredible athleticism. He had a 50-inch vertical, and he was 7'1", that he would often get blocks and when they were coming down, and they weren't calling it
oh, there was
because
some
it
serious
wasn't a
goaltending.
stat,
Yeah.
you know?
I've seen him
But
block a
anyways,
couple sky hooks that were definitely goaltending.
yeah, yeah, I've seen him block
Like,
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's hook shot,
yeah, that's
skyhook.
what I just said, skyhook, and it but there was a couple that are definitely goaltending, like,
Oh,
his hands are right
absolutely,
by the rim. It's like, "Okay, we're not calling
absolutely.
that."
But you should have seen,
Pretty
Jabbar's
impressive.
face when he got blocked.
Oh,
He
I
was
know.
just like his eyes were open. It was really funny. The Cavs, just
Yeah,
remarkable. Only 5 teams in the history of the NBA have started 14-0, and all of those 5 teams that did it previously all ended up in the conference finals, or division finals.
yeah.
And be interesting to see if the Cavs can keep it going because they were out. Both their bigs had some issues, but that
Game time
backcourt,
decisions.
yeah. Oh my God, please, another
Jared Allen,
contusion.
game time decision. I left
Yeah,
him out of my lineup. Oh, he
yeah.
played. Gets a
I
double-double. Thanks,
uh,
NBA.
no, no. It looks like Allen has. It looks like he has a earlobe contusion.
He only had half his head braided, and the other part was afro, so he didn't get his haircut done, so he
What a
couldn't
fro,
play.
though, man. If I could have a
Great
fro,
pro.
it'd be one of
That's a
those.
great pro.
But Mitchell, and the backcourt of the Cavs, I would say that is the best backcourt in the NBA right
Yep,
now with
for
Mitchell
sure.
and Garland. They're just playing incredible basketball. It's so fun to watch, and they really bought into Kenny
Yep,
Atkinson's program.
yep.
And is it sustainable? Well, I hope they can keep it going for a while because I
That's
love
concerned.
it, and
Yeah, it's
it's
fun to
rare.
watch.
And the Wolves game, I got to bring it up because after when you text me yesterday and said that he's got 57, I'm like, oh, here he goes again because he does this
Yeah,
every season. He goes off for 1 or 2 massive games and
yeah,
then disappears.
yeah.
And what happens in the NBA is when guys go off like this and get 60 and dimes and everything, and they go on this, and next thing you know it, he blows his ankle out and he's out for 8 games.
Well, what's
And
interesting is I have him and Keegan Murray in our league,
yeah,
in our fantasy league that we're in.
yeah,
Uh, he got 60 last night. Murray had 35. Well, they play back to back, so they play tonight in Utah. How
right.
much you wanna bet me both those guys are under 20 tonight and just kill me
Well,
in fantasy?
Murray will, he's very
So,
inconsistent. Murray
he
will
has
for sure.
he really has been. He's been kinda disappointing that he started the season a little bit. Yeah, I mean, he had a really good year last year, like,
Yeah,
really good year. Shot
I
over
like him.
40%
I
from
like him.
three-point line. Yeah, he's a nice
He
player,
he
but
just has to do more than shoot threes and rebound. He's
yep,
got to contribute in all of
yep.
the eight other
You watch
categories. And
those 2, they'll lose to Utah tonight, and those 2 will be under 20.
man,
Like,
Utah's
I can just
horrible.
feel it.
But
Yeah, you
the Wolves game I watched, and I drafted Edwards. I got him in 3 of my teams, and
he's
a lot
going
of
nuts.
people, a lot of people were like, "Don't draft him. He's going to have the sophomore blues." And Josh Lloyd with basketball fantasy basketball monster basketball. He said, "Oh no, no, stay away from him. There's no
Right.
way. He's not Michael Jordan. Blah blah blah." Dude has just been tearing it up. He had almost 40,
Yep,
and the pickup of Randall
yep.
is really helped them a lot. Even though Randall and the big Frenchman Gobert don't even talk to each other, they don't even look at each other. Randall hates him,
Yeah, he doesn't
and
seem like to be a very popular character, Rudy Gobert.
no, he doesn't. But they play well together because Randall can shoot the three, and he's a true power forward.
Yep,
So I mean, what a great game! Really,
it
really
was.
exciting game. The other one I want to bring up is Harden um, tied Ray Allen for the second most career threes. I know you say you don't really pay attention to those, but
Yeah, no,
it's pretty impressive.
it's
Pretty
impressive, and,
impressive.
as we talked about before we started today, is the league is different, right? It's not to take away that, Steph Curry and James Harden and some of these other guys aren't really great shooters. It's the fact that when Ray Allen was and, guys like Ray Allen, Reggie Miller, um, I would argue there's just as good as shooters, guys like Steve Kerr, Craig Hodges. lots of great shooters in the NBA in the history of the NBA, but the three pointer wasn't a go-to, right? I mean, Larry Bird averaged over three pointers a game. Well, these guys are shooting,
Don't forget this
7,
guy.
8, 14. Yeah,
This
for
guy was
sure.
one of the best
Again,
shooters in the
same thing.
history of the NBA. People don't realize it.
Again, though, he only shot like 4 to 5 threes in a game.
Well, in the
These
early
guys are
parts of his
shooting
career,
9,
towards the
10,
end,
14.
he
I
was
mean, that's
money
the
because
result of it.
he was a 50, 40, 90 guy 3 times.
Sure. But
He
Steph Curry's shooting 2 for 14 some nights, right? And then
not
we're gonna
many.
say there no,
Not
of
many
course not,
nights.
but I'm saying the volume of the shooting
Yeah,
of threes,
yeah,
it doesn't take anything away that these guys are putting up those numbers. That's not what I'm
yeah.
trying to do. I'm just saying that the game is different. If
Mm.
Ray Allen was playing today, Ray Allen could be considered the greatest shooter of all time if he got to shoot 12, 13 threes every game because there's
Well,
nobody who strokes like that guy.
he was prior to him retiring, and people forget in the '80s, if you watch the Denver Nuggets score 135,
Right.
140 points a game, Michael Adams probably took 600 threes and was jacking it up with that one arm hitch jack
A
shot.
shot
But
put, man.
yeah, but he hit 40% of his threes, and they were run and gun. It was,
Yep.
that's when the NBA finally brought in the 3-point line from when they amalgamated with the ABA and took a
Yep.
couple of their rules. It changed the dynamics of the game. It took a while. Now it's out of control. You got teams
Yep.
that can't shoot the three, and they're jacking it
Well,
far too many times.
the out of control comment is more because, like we talked about last week, the game now is I'm going to give up an open layup to throw it out to a guy who shoots 30% or less from
Oh,
the three-point line,
yeah, that
right?
was that.
So
Yeah, it's
that's the
just
difference. That's the difference in the game that we're talking about from you and I growing up with it to it now. I still love it. I have my issues with it. I don't think the product's as good. I don't think overall the league is as skilled as it used to be because I
yeah,
think players are only going to college for 1 year. They're not prepared for the NBA. Not
one and
everybody,
done,
but
one
it's
and
just a
done.
different game, right? It is a totally
Yeah.
different game that we're talking about right now than it was 25 years ago.
That
And
being
and many
said, That being
so,
said, I have to say, when I was playing in high school, I'm a little bit older than you. I graduated from Kitsilano Secondary, the Blue Demons program. We were the OG, we were the original Blue Demons in 1983, the only high school in British Columbia that didn't have a nickname. And when I finished my career, I look back on my stats over 5 years at Kits. I averaged about 25 points a game for 5 years. And that was without a 3-point line. They didn't
right.
bring a 3-point line to Vancouver in high school and probably
I
all
didn't have
levels until 1985. I don't know what it was like in Alberta.
we
If
didn't
I
have
had the 3-point line for 5 years in high school, I know I would have averaged well over 30 a game because it was, because the 3-point line back then for high school was at the top of the key. It was 19-9. It's a layup.
yeah.
It's an absolute layup. And
Yep.
of course, you know what happens if you're a prolific 3-point shooter is defenders will close out on you hard and foul the crap out of you, and you've got an opportunity for 4-point play. So I bring that up because I really am bitter and resentful
You're so
about not being able to jack
your
up
poor
threes.
your poor ego.
No, it's just it wasn't the ego. It was, when you're a prolific scorer and you can average 25, I could have averaged over 30. And that
Yeah,
was
well,
the reason. My whole goal was to be like Pistol Pete,
I
right?
was getting 30 in high school too, but I wasn't shooting the ball. I was a post player, so I
Yeah,
mean,
but you were also getting 20
threes.
rebounds and
We
blocks
didn't have
and
threes here
dropping
though.
dimes.
We had
You had
threes in
the whole
Saskatchewan, but not in Alberta in the mid '80s.
the other thing I want to bring up, Trent, before we move on is Chris Paul turning 40, is playing with San Antonio, and really Wemby is going to benefit hugely from having
Yeah,
Chris Paul. It's
good
already
veteran.
happening.
Yep,
He is the third player in the history of the NBA with over 12,000 dimes, which
that's
is really
impressive.
impressive. And the other thing I wanted to mention, and you brought it up briefly, was the Joker. Jokic is he's just absolutely. I've never seen anything like that dude. The only guy I can say, I think we mentioned it in the last episode, was Arvydas Sabonis.
Right.
But he's much better than
Yeah.
anyone else at what
Yeah.
he's doing.
Yeah.
He absolutely dominates the NBA. He makes it look easy. He looks like he's having fun out there. He's totally professional. He plays every game, and he's a walking triple double. He's just exceptional.
Well, like you
The
said, the key there is the thing a reason I think I'm a fan is not the numbers necessarily, is that when you watch, it
Yeah.
just looks so easy. It
Oh,
just looks like it just looks effortless, and he's not like we talked about. he's not all chiseled and this big, huge rock of a
He's
guy.
he's
He's
a
just a
7-foot
regular. He looks like a
Pillsbury
regular.
doughboy.
Yeah, he looks like a regular dude out there, and
Yeah,
it just
yeah,
looks so easy. And
yeah,
it's the footwork again, like we've talked about. It's these Europeans that are coming over, their footwork is far and away better than what North American players are when they first come into the league. It's not
and
even
yeah,
debatable.
really,
So
really good point and great segue into the other reminder of last night's games. I got to bring up LeBron. LeBron James is turning 42, believe it or not.
no, he's
And
turning
last
40.
night what's that?
He's turning
He's
40. He's
41.
39. He's 39 right now.
No, he's 40.
Oh, okay. Well,
He looks like he's 40 because he's letting the gray grow, but he's not playing like he's 40 or 41 or 39 or 42. Last night he had his fourth straight triple double,
with 12
and
points.
and it doesn't matter. Triple double is a triple double. You can't take it away. A trip dub is a trip dub, and the
Sure.
thing is, they got the W, and they're winning. They've won what 8 out of 11 and 9
Yeah,
out
they're
of 12 games,
yeah, they're 8 and
and
4 right
yeah,
now. So
and I think the reason why is because the Brow is playing through niggling injuries, and he is just I would say he's second in MVP right now.
yeah, he had 40 last night, right? So he's
Incredible.
I think bringing in JJ Redick, podcast partner of LeBron, they're
Yeah,
pals.
yeah.
I
Wine
think they
wine
really
drinking buddies.
I think they really realized that, okay, we need this to revolve around Anthony Davis.
Yeah,
It can't revolve around LeBron James.
yeah,
Anthony Davis is the best player on the team, not LeBron James,
yeah,
right? It's now, like you said, he's finally playing. I mean, they're 6 and it's not like they're lighting it on fire. They've won a few in a row, but they're 6 and 4 in the last 10.
yeah,
But they are playing better. They do look better.
yeah.
I think there is, JJ Redick, I think he's kind of holding players accountable a little bit, being that he was a
Big
player,
time, big
um,
time.
an average player. Let's not let him get carried away when yipping about old players being plumbers. JJ Redick was a plumber. Guy averaged like 12 a game. Simmer down, JJ Redick. But I think he could be a really good coach. He obviously showing that he was maybe everybody kind of slagged on the idea that this was LeBron's buddies coming to coach. It looks like he's doing a pretty good job, and they look like they're playing pretty well together. So
But
it'll be
they're
interesting.
playing
It'll be interesting
exceptionally
to see.
well, and they have depth, and they're relatively healthy. And what JJ's done with the offense is incredible. And I mentioned it in a previous episode. The nuances, the he's streamlining the offense. They pass
Yep.
it. Ball's not touching the floor. They're
Yep.
making extra passes. They're being unselfish, and they're really utilizing their cerebral, high basketball IQ. The players they have.
I'll tell you right now, the steal, and I said this when we talked way before I mean, we've been talking about doing something like this show for a long time, but just you and I, when we talk basketball, when we had conversations, I told you last year when the draft came that there was one player in the draft that I thought was being overlooked, and I don't know why, but he was the SEC Player of the Year at Tennessee, Dalton Connect. I cannot believe that he fell that far in the draft because, like you and I talked about
17th. 17th?
before we started today, we talked about how the draft class doesn't seem to be that electric.
Yeah.
That guy could be, if he gets to keep playing the minutes he's playing, that guy could be in the running for Rookie of the Year because
Yeah.
his minutes are going to go up. Because guaranteed, Anthony Davis or I know uh, Huchamara there, he's kind of injured right now. The minutes are coming for
He
that
always
kid,
has niggly injuries.
and he can
Always.
shoot the rock. That kid,
Yeah.
for a
Yeah. Oh,
big guy,
definitely.
6'8", 6'9", can shoot it.
He's
He is
legitimate
a
6'9".
really good basketball
Oh
player,
yeah.
and I
Yeah.
can't believe that he like teams like the Hawks. They went, and not that I don't like the French kid they drafted first, but you're going to take that kid who's never played in North America. That okay, we're going to take a chance over the guy who's the SEC Player of the Year. That you don't think that guy fits in with the Atlanta Hawks with Trey Young and the team that they have, right? It's mind-boggling
Yeah.
sometimes what we talked about. The good teams, they're good because of management. Not
Yeah.
all the players are great. They're the best players in the world. Management is a big deal. There's a reason that 10 teams, 12 teams are always the teams that are in the mix because they have good upper management.
Yeah.
I cannot believe that kid went that low. I was so sad because I root against the Lakers wholeheartedly that he went to the Lakers because he is a really good basketball player.
Oh
They
yeah.
got a steal of the draft in that kid at 17.
Oh yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
And the
No.
other thing about Chris Paul, real quick, top
Yeah.
5 in steals too all time.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. No. I
that's a
listen. I love
great
him, and
career.
he's
So
6'7", and he can jump, and he's fluid, and they love him. And the brothers love him. You know, when the brothers love a Caucasian dude,
Yeah.
it's the hard love from the brothers is, but he passes flying colors. They all just
Yeah.
like, especially in the game they had 36. I think he had
Yeah.
24 in the second half.
Like I
They went
said, what you
nuts.
brought up about Chris Paul, top 5 in steals as well,
Yeah.
not just top 5 in assists,
Oh,
assists.
it's just,
A great
you
career
know,
for that guy. For
yeah.
6'3" player, 6'2", 6'3" player,
He's
I
Hall of
mean,
Fame, Hall of
yep,
Fame.
first ballot,
And
for
I
sure.
just want to talk about the I talked about the tallest player, who I love, Wemby, but a lot of people don't know that there is a
Little
Japanese
Japanese guy.
little 5'8" Japanese player from
Yeah,
Japan
yeah,
named Yuki Kamamura, and he is 5'8". He's legitimately on. He's the third guard, and well, actually fourth guard in rotation if you look at what their roster is. And now they got Vince Williams Jr. back, who they're very high on, and he
right.
plays combo guard. And so Scottie Pippen, all of a sudden, the backcourt when John Morant finally comes back, who knows when he's going to come back? Guy's injured all the time, it seems. Is all of a sudden they're the depth is going to be incredible, and there's going to be some players that I think Scottie Pippen Jr. has got the edge, but they really like Vince Williams. But anyways, that was talking about. I should probably segue into waiver wire pickups. What do you think?
Yeah, go into, kinda what was out there this week for both of us even and what we've seen
Yeah.
out there
So
for
we try
players.
to do this. Trent and I try to do this every week because we as we mentioned, we have a team that we drafted on behalf of the Canadian Bro Show, all basketball with Pauly and Rowley, and under our logo. Although Trent has a different name, and we're in our first league together, and Trent's creeping up in the top three, and I'm right behind him. I
I'm
don't know
ahead of
how
the first
long.
place guy right now, but,
Yeah,
we have, like, 2 we're, like, a difference, like, 2 blocks, 3 assists,
yeah,
something
it's
like that,
tight.
so
It's
he's
tight.
got a bunch
Yeah,
of games tonight, but,
yeah.
we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing about fantasy basketball, right? It goes week to week, but because of injuries and some players maybe not getting the minutes or they fall out of rotation, and the Houston Rockets, as an example, they all of a sudden find themselves just an abundance of talent and depth and youth with
Yep,
great coaching and some really nice pickups. And the
and your
guy
boy Fred
that, what's that?
and your boy
No.
Freddie.
No, no, no. Some guy tried to trade with me and tried to give me Freddie, and I was like, "Sorry, dude." He's just like he got paid and he disappeared. That's what
Yeah,
happens.
yep.
Give him 85,000,000.
Jabari Smith had a couple nice games this
Well,
week.
I brought up Houston because I'm so frustrated with Jabari Smith. I dropped him on like 4 of my teams, and
Yeah.
every single time I drop a player, the guy goes off that night. Every single time. It's unbelievable. But
I love it, I love it.
and the reason why Jabari Smith dropped off and you know, wasn't getting the he couldn't shoot and the minutes were dropping us because of Terry Eason. Terry Eason has all of a sudden become the coach's favorite player, and
I was
he's
gonna bring
taking
him up.
minutes away.
I picked him
Yeah,
up this week because he
yeah,
had 4 games this week, so I was like, "I'm gonna pick
yeah,
him up," and I got rid of Jonathan Kuminga because
yeah,
that guy same thing as Jabari Smith. I am just like, who knows? That guy's gonna have 25 one game and 3
yeah,
the next,
yeah.
and
Well,
2 rebounds. Like, what a disappointment.
Tara gives you good shooting percentages. He's not a great foul shooter. Doesn't shoot a lot of threes, but he gets stocks, steals, blocks,
And
rebounds.
he's a multi-position. He's small forward, power forward player as well,
Hustle guy.
right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that probably lit the fire under Jabari Smith Jr.'s ass, or what's his ass. He's got stick legs. I don't even think he has an ass. But anyways, and it really just woke him up a little bit. And I'm glad to see that he had it. And I might pick him up a little bit later because he's very versatile, and they need him. The other is the horrific injuries. Once again, with Chad going down and breaking his hip. I mean,
Gone for a while.
that's what happens when you're, a buck 85 at 7 foot. You
Crazy.
gotta get an ass. You gotta work on your glutes. You gotta work on your core, your quads.
He went down pretty hard on that play.
He did.
I don't think being in shape had what kinda
No, I
shape he was
wasn't saying
in,
he wasn't in shape. I'm
but
just saying they
no,
need
I'm
to
saying
build
even his size,
core muscle.
sure.
You need to
Even with
build
that though,
muscle
it breaking a pelvic bone like that, that
because
was
there's
a
no
pretty big
muscle.
fall. It
You're
was a
you're
pretty
landing on the bone. If there was muscle
crazy.
there, you'd land on the muscle, and it would
Yeah.
take absorb some of that. But trust me,
Just a quick thing on the Tari Eason because I did pick him up this week.
yeah.
He's shooting 55% from the floor.
That's
So
what I said, the field goal
so
shooting, yeah.
he's averaging 12.5 points, 5.5 boards, 1.3 assists, 1 point almost 2 steals a game, and
Yeah.
1.2 blocks. He's a great little pickup to
Stocks.
have on your bench
I
when you're
mentioned
not
that.
playing every
I
game.
mentioned that on stocks, steals and
Yeah,
blocks,
he's been
very
great, man.
important in fantasy, and then the field goal percentage because he doesn't take a lot of outside. He works
No.
around the rim
Yep.
and he feeds off the unselfishness of a lot of their players. The next one I would talk about you got to look at is Lugens Dort is going to see his minutes increasing significantly. OKC, he's a defensive presence. He's Canadian, so I love to bring up my Canadian guys. I picked him up on one or two of my teams. He's a little inconsistent, but he gives you the same thing that Terry Asen gives you:
Right.
defense,
Yep.
stocks, steals, blocks, and he can shoot the three. He
Yep.
has a kind of old school set shot, but he
He's
gets really good
inconsistent with
arc
it.
on it.
If he's hot, and if he's not kinda player
Well,
from the 3,
it's yeah,
right? And he did
uh,
that in the Olympics for Canada. He had a couple
yeah,
great shooting games, and
yeah,
then he had a couple games, it's like, "Why are you shooting the ball right now?"
yeah.
Kinda thing.
And
So,
then
great
the next
talent.
one I go to and is my go to big. And I usually draft. I try to draft four centers on every team I have. I have 8 teams in Yahoo NBA Fantasy. I try to get 4 centers, centers that are power forward centers as well, so you can
Right.
flexibility and move them around. But when centers go down, there's not a lot of quality centers in the NBA. It's really hard to replace them. So Goga Badazi is one of my guys from I love. Um, Goga is just a machine. He's like 6'11". He looks like he could be a mailman from in Serbia, and but he is a double double. He gets blocks, steals. You don't have to run a play for him. He plays D, and he is really efficient because that team surprisingly, they're actually what are they fourth? Well, we'll get to that later, but they're playing well considering they've got a ton of injuries and they don't have any big men that are healthy. They got Wagner coming off the bench, who's pretty good,
Yep.
but their backcourt is brutal. And Goga fills in that spot admirably. The next one I'm going to talk about is probably the hottest player in fantasy right now. And he's the 16th pick for the Philadelphia 76ers. And their coach seems to have found someone he loves for the moment. And
Yep.
that is Jared McCain has just been going off out of
Yeah.
Duke
Week.
and
Yep.
playing incredible. And I had to watch some of his play just to see who this kid is because I really wasn't paying attention.
Right.
And boy, I picked him up on 2 of my teams now. So um, another one is a young man that is really playing well with the Denver team. Peyton Watson, he's getting a run because of Aaron Gordon's
Right.
unfortunate
Yeah. Right.
injury, and their coach. And their coach doesn't like to go deep, but this kid is hustling like crazy. He's one of these kids that just does everything, and you love his tenacity and his defense, and he's good for a streamer. And then the young kid, the young point guard out of Kentucky, I love the name Bub Carrington.
Right.
Is really he reminds me of a couple of players. He reminds me of kind of like uh, Tiny Archibald without the offense, and the way he's built. And because he's barely 6 foot, but man, he's going to be a good player in the NBA, and he plays for the worst team in the NBA or top 3 worst teams. The other guy is I'd never pick him up again is Kevin Herter because Kevin Herter is the famous guy, sits on the bench, doesn't do anything for the beginning of the season, goes off for 3 games in a row because of injuries, and puts up really nice numbers, then disappears with offers and 0 for 9. And Red Velvet, you can
Red
stay on the
velvet.
bench. I'm not
Red
picking him up. He is
red
so
velvet.
he's so inconsistent. Now, one of the teams that's confounding is I've got 2 players, Yves Missy, who's a big 7-footer for the New Orleans
Yep.
Pelicans, big
Yep.
man. He's been forced into playing because they just do not have any depth. And if you're going to start, a 6'8" center, there's something wrong with you. I don't really know what's going on with that franchise and who's running it, if anyone at all. The other one is Chris Dunn, who was out of the NBA and got traded. He was with the Utah. They had a full backcourt there. They should have not gotten rid of him because even though I love Clarkson and but their rookie or second year point guard with the Jazz guy shoots 33% from the field. Keon
Yeah.
George. Sorry, I tried 2 years picking the kid up because he's dynamic, but it just
I
kills the
almost
field
I
goal.
almost picked up Dunn in our league. I was very close.
Yeah, he's really talented. He's really well, and he's going to get a run because Trey
Yep.
Mann, they paid him a bucket of money, and he's a stiff. I'm sorry, I don't like him, and he's overtaken Trey Mann's back on the bench, so that didn't last very long, did it? The other one I want to mention is the 7-foot situation on another one of the worst teams in the NBA, and that's the Portland Trailblazers. They just they signed their stiff of a center who does one thing and one thing only, and that's score. Who's also injured right now with a pinky injury.
He's
Even if that's legit.
We're talking about Eaton.
Yeah.
He wants to be traded, let's be honest. That guy
Oh,
wants
yeah.
to go somewhere
But
else.
Donovan Clingan,
Yep. He's
finally,
doing great,
he's a
man.
7'2". He's a big kid. He had a great game,
Great hands. Yep.
and that's he's the future center of that team. And
Yep.
also Williams, finally,
Yep.
who looks like the Predator, with that the dreads, is finally he's injured all the time, but he had one game and went nuts. And of course, he's someone to take into consideration. I'm not going to pick him up.
I
The
would
other
be
one,
surprised. Yep. Go ahead. Sorry.
oh no, I was just going to say Brandon Boston Jr. Who the heck is Brandon Boston Jr.? Well, he's the player that's next in line for one of the worst teams in the NBA that has so many injury problems, and he's been playing really well. And he
Yep.
plays multiple positions. He can play the point, he can play the two, he can play the three.
Yep.
And Scottie Pippen Jr. I mentioned, but because Vince Williams Jr. is healthy after that fractured tibia, which is
Yep.
a dangerous injury, I think Scottie Pippen Jr. is happy to be in the NBA. He's happy to get signed to a
Yep.
contract,
Yep.
and they're going to find Vince Williams. So those are the ones I got picked up right now. You got anyone that you're thinking
Well,
about?
so Boston Jr. He played at Siena.
Yeah,
He was a year ahead of Bronny James. They played together at Siena when he was a senior.
I didn't know
Um,
that.
Played 1 year, I believe, at Kentucky. Again, another kid, and we could say this probably of about 30% of the NBA right now. Another kid that could have easily stayed in college for 2 or 3 years and got bigger. Got because guess what?
Smarter.
You're not there. Yeah, well, they're not there for school. Let's be honest. It's not
No,
a
but I
school
mean basketball IQ as
especially
well, right?
Kentucky. But yeah, basketball IQ, you're gonna you're gonna have a workout program. You're gonna get fed. It's a great way to get bigger, stronger, and smarter as a basketball player. These
Yeah,
guys, there's just so many of them. He has potential to be a really good player. He's long.
yeah,
He's a good athlete. Very sketchy shooter. Again, not you just haven't played enough, right?
yeah.
To
He can
my big
score
thing.
though. He's a scorer. He's
Yep.
not a shooter. He's a scorer though.
The two that caught my eye this week, like I said, I picked up Terry Eason because I looked at the schedule and I went, okay, Golden State only plays 2 games,
Yeah.
and I got the guy
Houston
I'm
plays
playing
4.
this week. Yeah, and the guy I'm playing this week had 8-man games when we started the week. Well, I got it down to like 3 just by picking up people, and
Nice.
Terry Eason was the guy I picked up, and Daniels was the guy I was very close. I looked at his, I looked at it, and I looked at the schedule, and I was like, okay, how do I fit him in, and who am
Yeah.
I sitting if I pick that? And you have that too. And meanwhile, I got, unfortunately for me, I'm actually pretty good with my team when I look at the fact that I had the guy who was basically leading the league in scoring in Banchero, down, and I'm
Yeah.
actually it just showed the strength of the team I picked when I'm losing that guy. But the waiver wire thing is just so important. I think a lot of players just uh, whether it's laziness or they just don't. I mean, if you're going to do this, I mean, I haven't done fantasy basketball. I did it years ago one time, and other than that, it's not like football where it's a couple games a week. I don't have. You're not paying as much attention to free agents, all that kind of stuff.
Right.
Basketball's a daily grind. If you're going to do it properly, if you want to win and you want to be competitive, you have to look at it every day. You can't
Yeah.
have a day that goes by that you're not looking at it. So those are the two guys I looked at. I picked up Easton, and he's been really good for me. He's gotten a double double 2 of the 3 games. So for me, that was kind of the two I looked at, and Scottie Pippen Jr. was the other one because of all those injuries.
Yeah.
And like you said, the numbers are going to play out themselves. It's the fact that all of a sudden you went from 12 minutes a game to 25 minutes a game. Well,
Yeah.
that's a big change in what you can put up as numbers when you're getting double the minutes.
Yeah.
And those are the teams to watch. I'm with you. You watch Memphis, you watch New Orleans, whatever it is, if they got some training staff problems, I'm not sure, but they seem to be the most injured teams in the NBA for like the last 5 years. Like, I mean, it's CJ McCollum. Is that
Yeah.
guy? I mean, where's he at, right? So, and I've kind of tried to stay away from anybody on Portland. I take Klingon just because he's big. He's going to get rebounds. He's going to get a double double. But after that,
Shaden Sharp is the only one that I
sure.
have interest in watching
But there's
because
no
he's
question in my
explosive.
mind if Portland really wants to buy into this rebuild, which they should. I mean, you're losing now, so you might as well buy in because we know, you and I know, being on the West Coast, um, Portland's a basketball hotbed. People are going to still go to the games. There's still going to be fans there. They can be crappy for 10 years, and it's going to be 75% capacity in the Rose Garden. They love
Yeah.
basketball.
Oh
So, and
yeah.
it's I mean, basketball on the West Coast, especially in Canada, people don't realize where I live in Alberta, basketball's gained a lot more popularity.
Yeah.
But basketball on the West Coast, especially the island, is like hockey here. Kids are
Yeah.
playing basketball when they're little kids. They're not playing hockey, right? So Portland,
Yeah.
if they were to buy into this rebuild, Portland, they're going to trade Grant and they're going to trade Aiton and get some picks or something like because they don't want to. Aiton doesn't want to be there. He's going to fake an
No.
injury for the rest of the year until he's
Yeah.
traded. That
Yeah.
guy's a stiff. I'm
Yeah.
not a fan of that guy. I
Not at
can't
all.
stand. You know this. I don't like big men who don't rebound.
Yeah.
It's just it's so easy to rebound when you're that big, and you don't
Th-
even wanna you wanna
There's
stand at the foul line and shoot jump shots. You don't
there's
wanna
there's only two bigs in the
can't stand
NBA
it.
that I like that don't rebound, and that is because of what they bring to the table elsewise. So I like Brooke Lopez, what he
Sure.
does
Yep.
for blocks and threes, and he's
Yep.
legitimate at 30, going on
Yep.
37. I
Yep.
can't believe he's
Good
still in the
call.
league, and he's really done well. And then the other guy I love is the big man for the Memphis Grizzlies,
Yeah, Zach,
Junior.
man. Oh,
Uh, yeah, well, he's always injured, but I mean, and but he hits the three. He doesn't
yeah.
rebound well, but he scores and he gets blocks and steals,
He was a good
and
defender.
he's a great defender, and he's really a power forward. So when they put Edie in there, and or their other two bigs that they have, he can play what his favorite position is. He likes the power forward position, but he can play center. I just wanted to talk briefly, Trent, before we go into the Eastern and Western Conference or
Yep.
breakdowns that you
Yep.
do so eloquently is what's happening in the NBA right now. If you're watching, you'll notice that these colorful courts that they have is it's because of the Emirates NBA Cup 2024.
Both suck.
All 30 NBA teams will be randomly drawn into groups of five within their conference based on win loss records from the 2023-24 season. Group plays in the Emirates NBA Cups will take place on cup nights across 4 Tuesdays, one of the slowest nights of the week, which is brilliant, and 3 Fridays. And each team will play one game against each other of the four opponents in that particular group. The single elimination knockout rounds will begin in the quarterfinals on Tuesday, December 10th and Wednesday, December 11th. Last year, it was electric. The basketball was some of the best basketball I'd seen certainly in the early parts of the
Yeah.
season.
They actually
Um,
played defense because they're playing for something.
yeah, and a lot of the NBA guys are like, I don't care about the cup, just give me the money because
Yep.
the Emirates, let's face it, they got a little bit of change,
Yep.
a
Little
little
Saudi
loose
money.
change. Oh, a lot of
I think it's just a trophy to create for LeBron to get another trophy because they ain't winning an NBA title. So
well,
I
didn't you
think the
get it
Lakers are
last
gonna
year?
win. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think they want the Lakers to win. So
Yeah. Well, everybody wants the Lakers to win,
no,
including
that's
myself.
not true. No.
And then before we get into Eastern and Western Division breakdown with Trent, I predictions. I'm gonna go early. I know it's early, but I'm gonna go for rookie of the year. I have to go with my Canadian Zach Edey.
Okay.
He's averaging 8.5 rebounds right now. He's currently playing about 25 to 27 minutes off the bench. They're
Yep.
studying. They're starting a kid named Huff, who
Yep.
is pleasant, but he's not a starting center. Um, and EB's starting to get confidence, and he's getting around 10.5 points, 8.5 rebounds, a block.
62% from the field.
Yeah, and he can shoot the three, and he is getting steals and blocks, and he is one long drink of water.
So
And I
so
got him for rookie of the year.
so there's another example of management, right? All these so-called experts, just like us, I guess, but all these so-called experts that actually get paid to do this,
We're
not
not
just
so called. We are
yeah,
experts. We
but
have our
we
own
don't,
show.
exactly, but we're not getting paid to do this. So,
Not yet.
but there's another example. That kid, like I said earlier about Connect, they most of the experts during the draft said, "Oh yeah, he'll be a decent player in the NBA, but he's only gonna play 12 to 15 minutes a game because he's not gonna be able to run up and down the court." Right? Yeah, nice shirt. But there's another example. All of a sudden now he lost weight, he got in shape. Like, you can tell he lost some weight,
Oh
got a
yeah,
bit more muscular,
yeah,
and he gets up for a guy that size, he gets up and down the floor. It's pretty impressive, honestly.
yeah,
He gets up and
yeah.
down the floor just like Wemby does, and he's a bit thicker of a guy. But you can see, like you talked about base, he reminds me a lot of Yao Ming back in the day. He has
Absolutely.
big trunk, big legs. He's not this 7'2", spinely, skinny guy. He's a massive human being,
Dude,
right?
that is
So
such a good. I mean, their bodies are very, very similar,
yeah,
because their
his
lower
lower half
bodies,
of it.
waist down,
Oh,
are they're tree stumps, man.
yeah,
Tree
yeah. His
stumps.
legs are. He's not Sean Bradley out there, kind of thing,
No,
right?
but you say a good point about it, and I'm glad you say some good things about him because he is
I like
Canadian.
him, man. He's a
He's a
Canadian
good
kid.
kid.
I wish they would have put him. I wish he wouldn't have been injured or insurance, whatever the issue was for the Olympics. They could have used him. I mean, the Olympics is
Absolutely.
a bigger physical game,
They
right? So,
needed bigs for sure. That was a
yeah,
huge mistake. But
yep,
the Americans did the same thing.
yep, for sure.
Anyways, uh,
But I'm with you on
so
that. I think he's probably the front runner right now, if for that award, just for how many minutes he's playing and the numbers that he's putting up. He's almost a
the
double double, 62% from the field, block and a half a game, steal a game. It's pretty impressive. I think he's showing some of these guys that they probably should just shut their mouth, that they don't know what they're talking about. Some of them, because
a lot of
I
them.
mean, there's a reason he won the Naismith Award 2 straight years in college.
Yeah,
It's not just fluke. And then, you know what? There's a perfect example, Paul, what we talked about. There's a guy who stayed in college all 4 years.
yeah,
And look at the product. Look at the polished product he is coming out of college because of that. The
yeah.
footwork, the hands, the actual basketball IQ, knows his role, right?
And
He
he's and he's
it's a
and he's
big difference.
cerebral. He's very smart.
Yep,
He's well
yep,
raised by his parents. He's a very respectful young man. He's
yep.
grounded. I think he's a character
I
guy.
love
I
it.
think
Love that he's
a lot of
Canadian. I love
upside.
it. I love it.
And there was a lot of criticism picking him at ninth. Honestly, if I had ninth pick,
Again,
I would have scooped him.
I would have took him or Connect for sure. Like,
Oh,
how
definitely.
are those guys following that far? I mean,
Yeah,
there's
no,
a reason
I'm a
they're
big
getting
fan of
awards in
Connect too.
college. But all these teams, they wanna take chances on that fringe player because he's like the French kid from Atlanta. Hey, 6'8", wingspan's probably 7'2". I mean, look at the potential there. Well, you're
Yeah,
gonna pick potential over a product, a guy who's already polished, can play, step in your lineup and make a difference right
yeah,
away. Not a 2 or 3 year down the road kind of guy, right? I was a great pick by Memphis. They needed a big and a big who could play minutes, and
yeah,
he's going to play 25 minutes a game easily. He'll
yeah.
and that number might go up, but do remember when you're that big, you're always going to have foot problems or something because you are a massive human being running up and
Yeah,
down.
but
So,
the whole weight loss for carrying a frame that
oh yeah,
large at 7'4",
Dude,
300 pounds. He's lost 35 pounds,
I'm
and he
happy
and
for him. He's
and
doing
he
well.
walked away from the Canadian national team because he said, "Listen, I
Yep,
want to dedicate my body and my time to
yep,
my team, and I want to prep for the season." And he did the
yep.
right thing. And a lot of people criticize him for
Agreed.
that, but I don't, and I think those are really valid points. The other big that I want to talk about, based that was drafted on potential, finally woke up and had the game of his early career, and that's Alex Sarr, the big 7-foot
Yep.
French kid.
Yeah.
And he had like 23 points, 9 rebounds, 3 or 4 blocks. And he's not shooting. I think he was shooting the worst in the NBA. Him and Keon George were shooting around
Right.
31% from the field.
Yeah.
It's inexcusable that you're a
He had an
7 foot.
over game this year.
I know. But he had rebounds, and
Over
he is,
10.
yeah, he's averaging 2.5 blocks, so he's doing something.
No, no.
But
Again,
he actually woke up, and you got a big they got 3 or 4 big men on that team. That Jonas Vacilonis.
yeah.
It's hard to get the minutes early because Vacilonis is going to give you 10, 10, and 1, and hit a three and drop some dimes. Right? He's
Well, the
still
one guy when we're talking
serviceable.
about bigs, not young, but one guy who has, really, really stepped up his game is, I could he might if he can continue the way he's going this year, I could say he'd be maybe the most improved player, is Jakob Poeltl for the Raptors. That guy's going crazy this year. He's just
Yeah,
having he had 28 and 18 last night.
yeah.
Oh, and
He
they lost
is.
to the Pistons. Good job, Raptors.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
but
No,
let's go
he's
into that. Let's go
you know,
into just the league itself.
yeah, absolutely, Jakob Poeltl, I've gotta bring it up, the big Austrian. I played, when I played professional, I played in Austria for 2 years, and, of course, Austria is really not known as a basketball hotbed. They're
Right.
probably known for their ice hockey more than anything else. But, it's good to see the big man, playing really well, and I think he's one of the most underrated big men in the NBA, so that's a good point.
Yep. Yeah, he could be most improved player this year if he continues the way he's doing. He's had a
Could
really good
very
season.
could very well be. Of course, he's playing on a horrible team, and I don't
Yeah.
think the Raptors coach is gonna last the season. I
Oh,
really
there's
don't.
another team. Injuries quickly. The guy
Oh.
has an elbow strain. Like, what the hell is an elbow strain? Like,
I
give me a
mean,
break.
seriously,
So, but
it goes
let's just get off the negative. It just
yeah,
pisses us
yeah,
off.
no, hey, let's do, what I'm really enjoying do you wanna
So,
start off with the Eastern Conference?
yeah, we'll start with the East. Obviously, Cavs, right? 14-0, like we talked about. I mean,
Insane.
again, you look at the teams that are in the standings as we go through them. The ones that are at the top are all plus. They're all plus 12, plus 10 in point differential, right? Some of them are even. I mean, honestly, Cleveland, they're giving up 111 a game, so it's not like they're playing great defense, but they play great defense when it matters. Is when they seem
Yeah.
to play really good team defense with the bigs that they have as well, and
The
they're
dual
scoring 100.
7-footers, it
Well, they're
works.
scoring 100, and they're scoring 124 a game. So that doesn't,
Yeah.
that seems to be the league
That's because
average.
of their backcourt. Their backcourt's averaging almost 60 points a game.
And then you got the Celtics again. We put the Celtics there. The team that I said that I thought would be a surprise this year is right there. Orlando right now at 8-6. Even without Banchero, they're playing pretty well. They play a
Amazing.
really they play a really good brand of team basketball. They don't
Yeah.
have that with Banchero out. They don't just have that go-to guy. They actually play a really good brand of team basketball and a really good pace. They're actually a fun team to watch.
And a lot of credit should go to Jamal Mosley, their coach,
Yep.
who was vastly underrated, and what he's done in the last couple of years is quite remarkable. They've bought in um,
Yep.
to his game of basketball, and they got depths. And honestly, the Wagner brothers with Banchero, they just there's a synergy,
Yep.
and they trust each other, and they play well together. It's a good point.
Yeah. And then
Terrible backcourt though.
no,
Terrible.
terrible backcourt. I'm not a big Suggs guy, but
Yeah.
whatever. That's for another day.
No, I mean the kid Black is really tough, but I mean he's
Yep.
not even close to being ready.
Yeah.
And he's nice. He's got good height, but
Yep. And then you got your Knicks, right?
yeah,
I mean, again, you go after those top three teams. Those are the only three teams in the East that have a winning record.
yeah,
So everybody else, the next team who's in fourth is the Knicks, and they're at 6-6.
yeah,
And then you have the Hawks at 6-7,
yeah,
the Heat at 5-6. Detroit, honestly, kind of been surprising. They're 6-8. They're on the bubble kind of thing. They're ahead of the Pacers, who are just a huge disappointment. Like,
yeah,
come on, you guys.
yeah,
Indiana to me right now is a team that read all the press clippings in the offseason about how they were going to be. I was on board. I like
yeah,
watching them. They're usually a fun team to watch. They get up and
yeah,
down. They don't play any D, but they get up and down. Fun team to watch. Balls getting jacked up everywhere.
yeah,
But I think those guys, they read about how great they were going to be this season, and they are just sucking balls right now. Like
yeah.
they're terrible. I can't.
They've got they've got injury problems. They got
they have
rotation
injuries. Yep.
problems.
Yep.
They've got inconsistency problems. They've got one of the best point guards in the game that is just really struggling in the early
Yep.
parts of the
They had a
season,
couple nice
showing
games here this last week because I
yeah,
have them.
showing some
But
flashes,
yeah,
showing the
it
flashes,
definitely
but
is a terrible
but
shooting game.
he's basically a hamstring injury or a glute injury away from missing another 3-4 weeks. He needs to get in the weight room. He needs to get
Yep.
on a program. He needs to get his core, glutes,
Yep.
thighs.
Yep.
He just doesn't have. He's a stick
Yep.
man,
He
and
is. I
and
agree.
and he's got a wonky looking shot. I mean, it's just. But you're right. He did have a couple of decent
Yeah, a
games,
couple tough games.
and the Canadian Benedict Mathurin playing
Yep.
out of his mind,
Yep.
with all
I
the
shouldn't
injuries
pick
they
him up.
have.
I had him and I let him go, but
I picked him up, and he
he didn't
had
play
a
enough games that week, and I
yeah,
was like, I need games, and
yeah,
I mean, again, it's like anything in fantasy. You have a rotation of who kind of those core nine guys are, kind of thing, and you
yeah,
have those three guys on the bench,
yeah,
and it's kind of like, okay, it's those three guys on the bench. There's one or two of those guys are the guys that you're kind of putting as dropping and picking up and stuff like that. I mean, and then obviously you have again. I mean, Milwaukee at 4-8. That's just a hot mess, right? I mean, I don't think
yeah.
I mean, Doc Rivers and Darvin Ham, I think they've lost that team. That team is running on
Oh, yeah.
Giannis
Yeah.
Giannis and
Trades,
they're
trades.
yeah, they're scoring 111 a game, giving up 113.
Yeah.
Well, out of that 111, in the games that they win, they need Giannis and Lillard to
Yeah.
score like 80 of those points. Like, they have to have great games every game, or one of them
Yeah.
has to have a great game every game for them to even have a chance, the way they're
That's not enough. They
and it's
they need
consistent.
Middleton to get back. They need more backcourt. They need guard depth on the wing and wing depth for defense. Their defense is horrible on the outside
Oh,
on the 3-point line.
it's
But
terrible.
and then nobody's and you're missing out the Nets and the
I'm
Bulls.
just yeah, I'm
Even
just
the
getting to them.
Hornets, they're all 5'8".
Yeah,
It's all
yeah,
mediocrity, right
yeah.
jammed in the
Then
middle.
you got the Raptors and the Sixers at 2-10, 2-11.
Wow.
The
Wow.
Sixers are just could you imagine if the Sixers missed the playoffs?
Wow.
I mean, Nick Nurse is gone if that happens. I mean,
Well, they
he's
got to
gone.
find someone to blame because it's
Yeah,
not going to be Big Africa, that's
yeah,
for
they
sure.
need to blame that jackass. Like, what
Yeah.
a waste of I
Yeah.
mean
No,
but
that's
I was getting to that. So Brooklyn at 5 and 8, Cam Thomas went off. He had like 8 threes last night, right?
yeah.
He had 40 something.
I watched the
Yeah,
game. He had in one point he had
yeah, he
six
was
threes in a row. He was just
yeah.
the net didn't even move.
No, he can shoot it, that kid.
Oof.
The Bulls again. These the Bulls again. I look at Chicago. I know I told when we started this show in the first episode. I said we don't even need to talk about them. They're the type of team again, like you said, inconsistent. One week they'll win 2 or 3 games in a row. The next week
Mhm.
they'll lose 3 in a row. Like, they
Yeah.
are all over the map that way. And then obviously the Wizards, the Wizards and the Raptors. Obviously, we picked the Wizards, Raptors, Brooklyn and Chicago to kind of be at the bottom of the East. And
Yeah.
yeah, we're only 12, 14 games into the season. Let's see this at the 30 game mark, because I think
Yeah.
at the 30 game mark, which is a third of the season,
Yeah.
a little more, we get to that starts to define kind of what you're going to see for the standings. It's not going
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
change a ton after that, right? Um, so in the East, that way, I mean, some of the teams we picked, I don't think what Miami's doing is sustainable. I still don't think they're. I think they're a playoff team, but they're not winning anything. They might be in the playoffs, but they're not winning. Tyler
No,
Hero
they're
had 10 threes the other night. So
yeah. No,
right,
he's playing well. He's actually having his record year. He's at 25 a game,
yep,
5 assists,
yep,
5 rebounds, couple
yep,
steals,
yeah.
couple
No, he's
threes.
playing a lot better,
The haircut
and he's been
the
healthy, which is again been a problem for that guy, right?
yeah,
So
just well, he only played 42 games last year
got a great
and
mentor on how to miss games in Jimmy Butler. So I mean,
oh my god, let's not go
but
there.
yeah, that's the East. So right
All right.
now, obviously, it's Cleveland and Boston, and then the rest. Right now, I
Yeah.
mean, I mean,
And
it's
I think the Knicks are better than 500
I agree.
team.
I agree.
And
Yep.
I think with the Hawks, if they can sort out their center position,
Yep.
and
They have some
Dyson,
rotation issues there. Yeah, it's just they're yeah. I'm with
it's
you on them. I think they could be a good team. They have some really good talent.
they do,
So
and I think Trey's having a great start to the year, and he's the only guy in the league that's 20 and 10, double double with assists and scoring. He's a really interesting dichotomy when it comes to being a player. He's a prolific scoring guard and shooter, but he also drops dimes, and he's relatively healthy for a guy
right.
that's maybe 165 pounds, 175 pounds max at
Yep.
6'1". He's so slight, but he's just the way he moves, it's effortlessly. Who do you got in the what do you got in the
So
Western?
So in the West, we got the team that we kind of, it was easy prediction with OKC at 11-2, right? It's again best defensive team in the league
Yeah,
at only giving up 102 points a game. The only other team that's not giving up 110 plus outside uh, of Oklahoma City is Orlando. They're giving up 102, and
yeah,
Houston's giving up 106.
yeah,
Outside of those teams, everybody's at 110 and above of what they're giving up defensively. But
yeah.
again, another good team, plus 12 and a half and plus minus, right? You look at the winning team.
They're down
Always
2
suck.
starting 7-footers.
The best was, did you see the game against Phoenix the other night? Shea was the tallest starter
Yeah,
at 6'5". He was the tallest starter
yeah.
they had in the lineup.
He's 6'6", but it
Yeah,
doesn't
six
matter.
six,
What's an
whatever.
inch?
But he was the tallest starter basically in their lineup, their point guard.
And
And
by
then
the
you
way,
got Golden State. I
who's
picked Golden
playing
State.
who's really playing well with the Thunder that's really picked it up for the
Uh,
missing 2 7-footers is Williams.
Oh, Jalen Win yeah,
He is
he's
just
playing great.
he's playing insane, man.
Another steal in the draft, that guy, right?
Oh, I picked
Like,
him up
he
on 3 of my teams. I got
steal in
him
the
in
draft.
I think I got him in the 4th round, and
Yep,
I said, "You know what? That's a bit early, but I'm gonna go with it because he gives you all the shooting categories. He gives you scoring, and now the
Yep.
2 7-footers are down. He's giving you blocks,
Yep.
steals,
Yep.
assists, threes.
Yep.
Yeah,
Oh no, I mean, they play defense, right? They're
yeah.
they're willing to play D. Even with down Chet, they're willing to play defense. So,
Oh,
and then you
and
got
by the way, the rumor with the you want to hear the latest rumor with
oh,
the
here we go.
OKC?
Yeah, they got
So there's one veteran, semi-retired veteran that is trying to get picked up on a 10-day. Dwight Howard is
yeah,
reaching
I've
out to
seen that. Yeah,
OKC, and
yeah.
he says, "Look, just sign me for this, just to get them to get Hartelstein healthy." I think they should pick him up because he can still
Yeah.
play. He was playing in the Taiwanese league, and he was like 38 and 25.
The thing with a guy like that though is
He's
you
big.
see him,
He's in great shape.
he is, but I don't know. Uh, Watching him play for the Lakers at the end, uh, I don't know if his ego lets him only play so many minutes a game. I don't know if he can play a role. I just don't know with him. And I'm not against saying, hey, pick him up for a 10-day contract. I'm with you. If that's the case, you got Holmgren out and Hartenstein out. All your bigs are out. Is it worth like roll the dice? Hey, baby needs new shoes, kind
Yeah,
of thing.
yeah, it's
Yeah,
easy. It
go
won't
for it.
cost any
I'm,
money.
I'm with you on that for sure.
And he can do 10 and 10 and give you 20
Yep,
minutes and
agreed.
a couple of blocks, and he's in great shape. He's still
Yep.
in
Oh,
excellent shape.
sure.
Who else you got?
And then you
What do
got
you on
in the second spot again, team that I picked. I said I thought was going to have a better year than a lot of people think. I know you don't think it's sustainable, but Steve Kerr's playing 9 guys. They've got a rotation going on.
Yeah,
The Warriors are 10-2.
yeah,
Steph Curry scored 0 points the other last night against Memphis, and they won.
yeah.
Right, and they're playing well. What is it sustainable? I mean, again, most teams, as we've talked about, I would say the most consistent thing in this show is the one thing that's always going to get brought up is injuries. They're an injury away from they're a Steph Curry injury away from being a lottery team, basically, right?
Well, I
I
mean,
mean, so,
Melton went down, and he was
yeah.
a very important part of the backcourt rotation coming off the bench, and he's gone. He's
And
always
Mr.
injured. I don't
Mr. Triple Single though is all of a sudden a
playing quite
3-point
well,
shooter. Yeah,
quite
he's
well.
hitting threes, and he makes them go. I mean, he's a great role player, and he's more than
He
a role
really
player.
is, and he fills the stat sheet, man.
Yep.
He everything blocks, steals, dimes, rebounds. He's just when his mind is right, he's a very very
And then you have
talented player.
And then you have 3 like, again, the West is so much better than the East. I
Yeah,
mean, it's not close, right? It's not comparable. I mean,
no,
think about the East, we went through those first 2 teams. The next team in 3rd has 8 wins, and then they're all 6 and 5 and 4. Well, the West, the next 2
oh,
teams are 9 and
oh,
4 at Houston and Phoenix. And then the next 2 are
oh.
8 and 7. I mean, the only teams I mean, Utah's terrible, and they have 3 wins, more than Philadelphia and Toronto. So the West is so much better than the East. I mean, it's almost unfair that they got all kill each other in the playoffs to get to the finals to play against, the Cavs or the Celtics kind of thing, because it's a way easier ride in the East that way. So, hey, Paulie's gone, so it's just my show now. Technical difficulties, people. No connection with Pauly and Rowley. Hey, he's back. He's show back up. I thought I was going to do the rest of the show on my own.
No, no, well, you froze. You
Oh,
froze.
well, you went offline on my end.
No, it started to sync,
Oh, okay.
because
Well,
your internet froze.
no, well, you went off on me, but whatever, doesn't matter. Whatever, whatever.
I was here, buddy. I
Yep,
haven't gone
you were
anywhere.
here.
It's
The
you got
Rockets.
frozen. You got frozen when we're back on, so I apologize everybody for that. The show's not live anyways, but
Yeah, still
it happens. Trent's in
technical difficulties.
the dungeon in his house, and sometimes the internet at that dark
Yeah,
corner does not go far. But
yeah,
anyways, we're almost finished
yeah.
anyways.
So Houston 9-4. They're a surprise. They're
Yeah.
playing well. Again, another team that just gets up. I mean, it seems like it's a new NBA. It's like these teams. It's get up and down. It's almost playing. Paul Westhead, Loyola Marymount basketball, or Mike D'Antoni, 7 seconds or less. Like, get the ball up the floor.
They all
First
got that
open
from the
shot,
Denver
let's go.
Nuggets in the 80s.
Sure. Paul Westhead then.
Yeah.
I mean, right? So, uh, yeah, I mean, the West, again, you have Houston, Phoenix at 9-4. You have the Lakers with 8 wins. You have the Nuggets with 7 wins. Then you got
Yeah.
the T-Wolves and Grizzlies in Sacramento with 7 wins.
Yeah.
I mean, the West is going to be a dogfight right to the end. I think at the 30 game mark, you're still going to be going, okay, there's 3, maybe 4 teams that have a chance to be in that play-in game type thing. Whereas the East, I
Yeah.
think by 30 games, we're definitely going to have it. Who's going to be there, kind of thing. So
I think one of the most disappointing teams, certainly in the last 5, 6 games, is Dallas. Has just fallen
4 in a
apart.
row.
Five actually, 5 out of 6, and
Yeah, but they've lost 4 in a row.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
and
one
you
to
know,
Utah.
yeah. I mean, what a horrible team. But I'm still a Luka fan, and I've never been a Kyrie fan. But I think they
Yeah,
can turn it around. I think they've got depth. Both their bigs. They're playing
yep,
instead of doing what Cleveland's doing,
yeah.
is they're playing their bigs and trusting them. They're not playing their bigs because the problem is Gafford can't shoot the three, and Lively can't shoot the three. So
And
what are you going to
PJ's
play?
hurt.
Yeah, well, he's always hurt. I mean,
Yeah,
he
but he's
was
6'8", 6'9", legit, and
yeah.
rebounds, right?
Yeah,
So
he
that's
does,
why
but
they don't play those guys.
he's very inconsistent and he's always hurt. I don't bother
I'm
with
with
the
you.
guy
I
anymore.
dropped him. I picked him up for a week, and he
Yeah.
played 3 games for me, and then I was getting rid of him because I'm just like,
I could
he's
have
gonna be
told you
hurt
that.
before I
Yeah.
coulda get I got rid of him just before he got hurt, so
Yeah. Yeah.
my luck's the opposite of yours. Your luck is drop a player, scores 28 the next game. I drop a player, he gets injured, so it's a
That doesn't happen to me very often. Usually I work that waiver wire
I know you do.
like a true hoop junkie. I'm needing a new fix, and
Yeah,
if a guy goes down, I'm on the waiver wire instantly to find somebody to fill that 20, 25 minutes that can actually
yep,
contribute, and that's the key. Is you got to stay ahead of
yep,
everybody else. You
yep,
got to be Johnny on the spot. And one of the things I like about fantasy this year, Trent, is it's instantaneous when you hit the waiver wire.
right.
And if you're heading into like the weekend here, Saturday, Sunday, I'm looking for players. I'm looking for teams that got Saturday, Sunday games,
Yeah,
and I'll grab a player just to fill in and stream them just for that last game because I've
yeah,
won a championship on the last
right,
Sunday of an NBA season just by having enough players playing and eking out a 5-4
right.
on a guy that had me 6-3 going into Friday.
Yeah, I that's
and
yeah,
and won a championship, won the whole thing just on that. So
I only got 2 man games today, and I was thinking of maybe looking at the waiver wire and pick up, but if I'm gonna pick up anybody, I'm gonna be dropping Terry Easton, and I kinda like what he's doing on my team right now,
yeah, yeah, keep
and
him
I got a full slot of games tomorrow. So,
right, right.
I just I'm gonna the guy I'm playing against has 5. I'm up 5-4 right now. A couple categories are pretty close. I just have a hard time. I don't wanna let that guy, go
No, I
just
understand.
for one man game for a Sunday, right? So,
Listen, we're gonna wrap it up because it's 12:50 on West Coast time, not Mountain, so it's
you
1:15
bet.
where you are. Thanks very much, Trent. That was a great show. I'm glad we got to be able to do this, and we still have some good content. What are we on timing right now? By the way,
Just
just out
about
of
an hour, 7 minutes.
perfect,
So,
right on
yeah.
time. So,
I just before you wrap it up, I just
sure.
wanna give out a shout out to, some of my guys on the West Coast. I know they've been listening to us and checking it out. They told me, "Hey, if you ever do anything basketball, we definitely watch." Justin Anderson here in St. Paul, he's the guy that, has lent me the equipment to do this with you, so shout out to him, and a shout out to my guy, Jim Taylor, in Lloydminster. Big basketball guy. His girl's been playing a lot of club, and he also, I believe, just was elected on the council in Lloydminster. So congrats to
Oh
him as
wow.
well. So
And also a shout out to one of my old basketball friends, Dan Hobart. He played at SFU with Stan Stewartson and Jay Triano, 6'6". He's the only guy I know that will come out on the basketball courts at Kitts Beach with Motorhead outfit, all black, black Converse, long hair, and he looks like he's the singer from Motorhead, and but he can ball. And he really enjoys the show and is a baller as well. He's a
right
heavy
on.
metal enthusiast. He loves music. He's a great talented artist. So it's really good. We should do those shout outs every episode at the end for sure.
You bet.
Awesome. Listen, Trent, thanks very much. And everybody, thank you very much for joining the fourth episode of the a new iteration of the Canadian Bro Show, all basketball with the Hoop Junkies, Pauly and Rowley. Look forward to next week's show. This show
Yep.
should be up in a few days. And really nice seeing you, Trent. Have yourself a great day. And everybody else, you know it. Look at the ticker below. subscribe,
Like and
help us out.
subscribe.
We really appreciate it. The numbers
Right.
are remarkable. I'll get into the numbers later, but we're doing quite well.
Yeah, man.
It's
Lots of
quite
views.
complicated, but I'll get on my studio and break it down and share with you any details. I think it's important that you know that the work that we're putting in is getting attention, and we really appreciate everybody.
Love it. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks very much. Have a great day, everyone. Take care. Hoops for the soul, players for life.
So cheesy.
Pauly and Rowley. Yeah, baby.